Hi, Olesia. Welcome
Hi,
to the
Pauline.
Den.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for finding time to join. How are you?
I'm very good. It's early here in Prague, but had my first coffee, so ready to talk.
Very nice, very nice. Look, I think, we've known together for a while now, but I like starting those podcasts with asking people to tell me a little bit about their journey and their story. So I think it would be only fair if that's our starting point. What's your
Sure.
story? The past, the present, and the future.
The story has been intense, let's put it this way, but in a nutshell, Olesia based in Prague. Originally, I'm Ukrainian. I moved here when I was around 18, I guess. I decided to just switch the whole thing, moved from learning languages and literature to studying finance and economics, and then moving to tech, apparently. So it's been a journey. In terms of my career, I started first in the big corporate world. So you name it, Procter & Gamble Finance, Ernst & Young Advisory, then moved to IBM. And actually there I was introduced to technology and all the innovation transformation world, which was a great learning. Since then, launched startups, closed startups. And for the past 6 years, I've been with Enrian partners. We are based in Prague. We are a smaller boutique consultancy focusing on tech, innovation, and everything digital and everything complicated. And I've been a partner there for the last 3 years. Also in the company, I take care of growth and learning of people because I do believe that people are our main asset. Asset is a wrong word, I guess. It's the pinnacle of the whole thing because in the end, without people, we are nothing. So that's me. I have a dog, Maggie. She's adorable and she's usually joining all my meetings. She's not here today though, so it's only me.
So we're not gonna meet her, I'm sorry.
I'll ask her for insights later.
Yes, please do. And we can put Maggie as well in the thumbnail of the video.
Absolutely.
So that she feels included.
She would be flattered.
So true. But you are kind of hanging me the next question. So I just cannot not ask it. So like you take care of like learning and growth in Enrian for some time now. You are in the industry that feels very strange right now with all the changes happening, with all the like AI, of course, generational shifts, remote, hybrid, etc. So what's your view on like how historically you have seen learning and growth, like let's say 5 years ago, and how do you see it now? Like what changed? What are the things that stayed the same? What are the things that are done differently now in this period of time that you are in your current role?
Of course. So first of all, of course, fair to say that my experience is also defined looking backwards at this by the stage of my career where I was
Of
at.
course.
Because in the beginning, of course, it's more about you being you still have to be always humble, but you're more open to what things are given to you, but you have to still go get your opportunities. And now being able to shape it and actually lead the growth is a bit of a different thing. But if I conceptually look back 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I think we are moving, of course, we are fueling the growth and we are fueling the learning with technology, and the world is becoming more and more volatile and faster and more unpredictable, which is, of course, challenging for people to actually even define what is my growth path. Because before that, I remember 10 years ago or like 15 years ago when I was in the university, I had a feeling that growth paths were much more clear and more defined compared to now. Of course, now for the last 2 years, 3 years, we have Gen AI, which is meddling with things even more. But overall, I guess it was much more institutionalized in the previous years. And now it's much more open. And actually, there are many avenues that you can take with learning and growth and development, rather than before that I remember like in the corporate world, you just have, of course, there is still growth paths, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it was much more black and white here and there. And now it's a very different world overall. And I believe that we are shifting quite a bit in terms of how much, if I call them soft skills, matter versus expertise. Expertise still matters and will matter. It will never disappear. But now again, with Gen AI and everything in the world, how it's changing, I believe we are entering the age where such skills as critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, etc., will become even more prominent and needed, and maybe valued more. Because before that, we used to value more if you have certificates or if you have certain deep expertise.
That there is actually some research on it. I don't remember the numbers, but that like 80-something% of employers consider critical thinking one of the key skills, and only 53% of employees consider it as such. So this is one angle. And I mean, again, I don't remember the exact data, but the switch from being recognized for certifications or being recognized for specific skills and soft skills becoming more important. This is also the projection, at least in Europe, by one of the institutions who are studying how the needs of the upskilling and reskilling in Europe. And there is a very visible trend towards softer skills, except for data and AI, in the next 10 years. So, I think data is supporting your feeling.
Great. By the way, I really do not like the distinction soft skills and hard skills, because it almost creates a bad rep for soft skills, as if it's either something that it's inherently yours, you're either a good communicator or not. And it's something like hard skills feels very robust and very serious, and soft skills like fluffy. Yeah. But you have structured problem solving. You can learn structured communication. And also we are seeing it now with clients, is that they're asking us, but who do I hire? And it's very interesting what you said, that there is a bit of a discrepancy between how employees value and see, for example, critical thinking as something that is important versus employers, because now they're very confused and they don't know.
Yeah, and I think that that's very true, because I've heard from someone in my past life a sentence that I really liked. They said, you generally get what you measure. I think the challenge with what you are mentioning is that hard skills are much easier to measure. So you can measure whether the person can do a logo design or not. Maybe sometimes you can judge the quality, but you can have a binary yes-no kind of situation. For the soft skills, it's never a yes and no. It's always a spectrum. So it's very difficult to measure, which leads to the fact that it's not. And then this is a missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. It's possible, but very difficult, very not straightforward. Let's put it this way.
I agree. And on the growth and learning topic, there is one specific area where I wanted to ask for your insights, because when I was preparing for our conversation, I did look at numbers. And if I'm not mistaken, the average tenure of a person in Enrian is around 5 years and 4 months, which is almost twice the industry benchmark. And I think it's like such a unique situation. I think I've mostly never seen companies at the size you are with such a good tenure. So this means that people are staying, they are growing, they are like spending a very significant part of their career inside the organization. And I wanted to ask you to tell me a little bit about how is from your perspective, how is the growth and the culture in the organization connected to what the numbers are telling us.
To the tenure. Yes, I think we were actually discussing it at one of the last all hands. It's closer to 6, so very high number.
Okay.
Very true, especially now in the industry and overall. I think there is a bigger tendency of people rotating more. In our case, so we've been on the market for 11 years now. In November it will be 12 years, I believe, and. Originally, the company was created out of passion. And I think that's a very important starting point. So the founders that created the company, they were not looking just for a new gig startup that they can, sell and exit or to earn all the money in the world. So the company had a purpose, and it was created as a space where they can actually build something that they could not find in either big 3 consulting companies or, big corporations. So I think there was, even maybe it was not explicitly said, but there was a very clear intention that we want this place to be a place where we want to come back and be. And based on this, we were also looking for people, and we were hiring people, and we were hiring also characters, but there were certain values and certain things that connected all of us, how we ended up being together. So I think there's this just very clear foundation based on values. And in the company, we do have very clear values that we communicate and we try to propagate. Of course, it's always based on the context, etc. But there's something that is very important for us, which is joy, care, transparency, and those things actually, when we connect, when we hire with people, they stay longer with us. So this is one aspect in terms of values, and in terms of overall approach to people, we have a very humane approach. And we just want to hire someone that we like being around. I have a question actually that I ask myself, and I ask to, when I, maybe brief someone before the interview, just great, ask about all the things in the world, all the hard skills. But the last question after you close the interview, ask yourself, do I want to spend at least 8 hours per day with this person? Either in the office or in the project. If my answer is yes, good sign. If my answer is I'm not sure, we will have to look into it, because it's very important that we have there people that we like. So this is one aspect, just overall the company foundations. And then there is other aspect, I believe, that we are trying to give to our people that creates also value for them. So we have this approach, I call it responsible freedom, in a sense that we absolutely do not care where you work, what times you work, what's your location, what's your times of anything. As long as your job is done, we do not micromanage you. We do not tell you what to do. We do not tell you, and we do not calculate the exact days of vacation that you can take. We treat everyone as an adult in the room, that they can make their sound decisions, and we trust them. Of course, unless sometimes people prove you wrong, and then you have to take measures. But overall, it's very based on trust, and people appreciate it because they don't feel controlled and surveilled. And of course, it comes with the responsibility. And so this is one aspect. And then I think it's overall also fun. We also give people interesting opportunities. We try to learn and grow a lot, meaning now, for example, with Gen AI, they can play with whatever tool they want. Just come and ask, and we can ensure that you have access. We pay for the subscription. Our engineers are creating some unimaginable workflows with Gen AI and agents because they love it. And we love to play, and we love to create. And I think we gather people around us that are on the same page. We were having, given that it originated as a small, unruled agency, we did do quite a bit of effort in the past few years to also focus more intentionally on growth and learning. That was primarily on my side and the team, just to ensure that we provide the feedback, we get the feedback, and also we can help people articulate their aspirations and help them grow with different options on the table that they can pick up and actually do it. Ask.
Okay, let me go back to one of the points that you shared, and then I'll follow up on another one. So I also I really liked the concept of responsible freedom that you shared, and I'm super curious on how does this apply to personal growth and learning, because I know that there are some interesting things going on in Enrian about how people learn. So I would love to hear a bit from you on like how you came up with this model where people are like owning their own growth, and what have been the learning so far. Like what are the things you tried that worked, what are the things that you tried that didn't, and so on and so on.
I guess the concept and this approach stems partly from my own personality, because I believe you should be the owner of your growth. I don't believe in something should be given to you, because it's a very immature position in life, in career. You have to actually own your growth. It's important that we create an environment and we create a framework, an opportunity for the person to actually be able to leverage anything that they want. It might be the course, it might be the placement on the project, it might be some maybe even additional activity within the company that they want to explore. So we give the opportunity, we give the context. In the company, just if I briefly describe the mechanics, that what we've introduced, that every person, so we have 6 partners in the company taking care of the management and overall strategic direction, and every partner has assigned person in the company where they have this one-on-one, more intimate, professionally relationship where they discuss the person's context. We have also, we call it a skill wheel, which is basically a set of skills that we believe are the most important ones in our context for the company and for people. They have all the technical, harder skills and all the behavioral skills. We have the person assigned to a partner where they can discuss their growth aspirations, where they can discuss their growth plans, and then agree on the next steps. Partner is a very important piece in this schema, in a sense that then it's my job as a partner to ensure that maybe the person gets the placement on the project where the person can grow. It doesn't work if one of the parties are not involved, of course. Here, it's important that people also initiate the conversations and actually proactively approach that, meaning asking for feedback, asking for the sessions, actually vocalizing what they want. What I've observed in many cases, people don't know and they're waiting for the direction to be told to them. So, of course, sometimes it doesn't work, but overall, this has proven to be very beneficial for a couple of cases, for sure, for many people.
I want to ask you one thing. So that's a question I think like a lot of people are kind of going through in their heads. Like, where is the balance between kind of creating the opportunity and almost like this spoon feeding the growth to people. And at the same time, I know that naturally there are some people that are more vocal than others just by their personality, etc. So like depending on the seniority and the maturity that you were mentioning, it might come with a different level of easiness for people to ask for learning opportunities, etc. And I mean, by fact, I know that you are very good at balancing both because we work together. But I want to ask you how you think about finding this balance for someone who is maybe not experienced in this, or someone who is managing the team for the first time. So how do I like find a balance between helping my people and at the same time not spoon feeding them, but making sure I give the space and the opportunity for them to learn and to grow. Am I making sense?
Yes, absolutely. maybe one important thing in terms of growth in any context, especially our context, is there are two to tango, in a sense that there are needs and aspirations from the individual, where they want to grow, where they want to develop themselves, their skill set. We do not forget that there are also companies' needs based on what our clients need. Where do we see our strategy going? Where do we want to evolve? And the growth framework is actually when you meet the two. It's never just about one side or the other side, because then you create a symmetry that is not healthy, and one side is very unhappy. So that's just what we are aspiring for it too, is exactly having this balance. In terms of learning and how to give the opportunity and find this balance between you spoon feed the person and then, or you just let the person drown or hope that the person will not drown. Here it comes the seniority of, I don't want to say adult in the room, but someone who is overseeing either the team or the individual. My personal approach that works well for me, I hope, is I need to really understand what's the drive and motivation of the person and what's the personality, where they're standing. So I need to really know my people. I need to connect to them. And then, it's sometimes I have this comparison. It's like you're in a room with many, many doors, and you need to find the right key. So your team is usually the room with many doors, and different person has a different key that you need to find and kind of know what works. Usually, broadly, I believe that you learn by doing and making mistakes that do not carry too much weight. That's how you get the sense of agency, ownership, and at the same time you are given the space to actually sit, be uncomfortable, try to find the solution and try it out. Nevertheless, here it's important thing to understand what's the person's level. So I know where I can push the person and just let her or him be, explore, and then I prefer to outline the direction, where to go. Then the person can tinker and think, come back to me, and we can problem solve together. What are the options? Where do we go? What do we do? Get the feedback and reiterate. Ideally, in ideal circumstances, that would be the way. But sometimes it's just you also fail and you don't know. Sometimes you, for example, give this direction and then you see that the person is overwhelmed. So you need to rewind and maybe to step in more and support more. Comes with different levels of seniority and different levels of expertise within a certain area. So there's no one recipe. It's very individual.
Yeah, I agree. And now that again you are a very nice person to interview, Olesia. You are giving me all the
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. But I want to also go a little bit into the skill wheel that you mentioned you've built. So how did you came up with an idea of having such a tool internally? What was the motivation? What are the things that you kind of learned while creating it, and how do you use it now?
So how did we decide to start even working on it? It was 4 years ago or 3 years ago, and we didn't want to focus only on performance feedbacks. Connected to salaries, it's not necessarily the pattern that we want to enforce, that your performance or how you are as a professional always is connected to your salary. So we are running yearly feedbacks, calibration, and all the salary reviews, etc. But we wanted to really shift the focus more on growth and learning. And but the first step was just to understand what are the main areas that matter to us, to people. What it was easier to imagine it in a wheel because it's something like a shape. So what are all the segments that we, in our context, in the context of our company, we feel are important? And if you can imagine a wheel, roughly half was about behavioral skills. We are not calling them soft skills, but behavioral skills. And that's communication, innovation, creativity, and many, many other things. Teamwork, etc., etc. And then there were hard skills. In our context, as we are working in innovation, tech, back in the day, more digitization, creating digital products, it was technical skills, meaning coding, DevOps, all of that. Then there were like product skills as a product owner, delivery lead skills, because we were also delivering the solutions, UX, UI, etc. So it was very segmented. And then, of course, there were different layers and different levels of seniority underneath each. So it was huge exercise. Now, looking back, being more in a reflective, self-reflection mode, I think we went too far. It was too complicated, because it was the whole thing that you need to fill in where you are now. So the person would fill in the self-assessment. Then we would gather the feedback from the peers and from maybe project like leads on the leadership, etc., etc. And it was huge exercise, super important, because we had to agree on the language, on the expectations. People finally knew what we are looking into when we are, giving the reviews, etc., etc. But first of all, super complex, very time consuming. I guess growth doesn't have to be difficult, doesn't have to be hard. And it's essentially about a couple of very, very important things, but not so much and so complex. And now I can actually not throw away, but scrap half of it because of Gen AI and what we see as a shift in terms of the profiles. And that's connected to what I was telling in the beginning, that we used to have more of a distinction. Oh, you are this, you work as an engineer, you are back-end, front-end, you are UX
like
designer.
A profile.
Very, very profiled. With, of course, we had a few generalists, more like me, that I can do almost everything. But now we are moving into more of a unified, full stack builder almost.
Product builder, yeah.
Yes, it's still, I feel that the world out there is not super stable at the moment. So I'm expecting more changes to come. But let's say for now and for the foreseeable future, meaning 12 months, I would say that we would stay within this builder mindset. It's not been codified, so it's now kind of floating in the air. But I guess that's the more of a direction for moving forward.
Very nice. And when you were running those, the process, etc., so you said you would scrap half of it. So what are the elements you would definitely keep, both in the skill wheel and the process, and what are the elements you would kind of think are maybe too much?
Well, for sure, in terms of the skill wheel, I would simplify much more areas where we went really very granular in terms of expertise, UX, development, etc., etc. I think it can be boiled down to a couple of main things, and that's it. I would for sure leave the behavioral skills, as I was mentioning. We were also giving different weights, but and I was mentioning it in the beginning that as for me, what we really should focus more moving forward is the critical thinking, is the problem solving, is the creativity. We still communication for sure teamwork, because now as Gen AI, it depends, of course, on the industry and on the specific kind of job. But when you outsource so much of a legwork and mechanics to Claude or to ChatGPT, whatever is your choice, then actually what you as an individual have to do, you have to do for them. And after they do the work, exactly the problem solving, exactly the thinking. And it's something that can be learned as well. So it's not something that you just wake up and you have or not. But we should deliberately work on that. So for sure, in terms of the skill wheel, I would simplify it and just expertise is very important. We don't have to over-engineer it. And in terms of the process, we had an attempt of having more rigid cycle, in a sense. You have yearly review with your partner, then you have quarterly check-ins, what I've learned is that in the agencies like ours, it's very difficult to keep this cadence and keep the process in place just because of the nature of our work and client first attitude, and also the personalities of people, that we are not super process oriented, some more, some less. So there, I think it would make sense to keep the framework, but then leave on individuals the responsibility and agency of their growth, for their growth more.
And I mean, this leads me very nicely to the one of the topics we also discussed in our pre-call about feedback as the right and as the responsibility, as we defined it. So, I mean, I know you are very passionate about the feedback topic, so maybe we could go a little bit in there. And I would love to specifically learn, how are you thinking about this concept of like, yes, it's your right, but it's also your responsibility?
Yes, I'm very passionate about feedback. Here, very important to say that what I'm gonna say is with an assumption that we are talking about the safe environment, meaning that the person is in the safe environment where there is a possibility to ask for feedback and receive feedback in a manner that I do not feel threatened, or et cetera, because I do understand that in some contexts it might be tricky because of the nature of the company or the nature of the leadership, et cetera. So just keep that in mind, that it's in the context that I feel safe.
That's already a huge assumption.
Yes. So it's nevertheless, looking back, and that's purely based on also my experience. And I've come from various backgrounds. So we talk super big corporations like IBM, where it's all process, it's like a huge machine, to really very small startup with 5 people core team running the business for a couple of countries. At the same time, I believe, so in terms of the feedback, I guess that's, some people approach it as it's my right to get the feedback, and they sit and they wait for it, which is, again, coming back to the point that I mentioned in the beginning of our podcast, is it's a bit of an immature attitude to life and your professional, personal life, whatever, is the person is responsible for their own growth within the company, outside of the company. So before you ask for the feedback, you need to be aware, why do you do this? Why do you need to ask for feedback? Do you ask for feedback to get the raise? Do you ask for feedback to get pat on the shoulder? Do you ask for feedback because you want to grow? Because that really defines when you ask for feedback, if you ask for feedback, and whom do you ask for feedback. So some people can take the avenue of, I need this, and that's very valid, by the way, as well. I need appreciation and I need validation, because that's how I know that I'm doing well. And that has a right to be in the feedback. Feedback is not only, as we Slavics love to do, like, don't tell me where I'm good at, just tell me what to improve and where I suck. And then I know that I need to focus on this. No, feedback is both. It's also what are your strengths and where you need to still keep building on. So it's for sure the right, in the sense that in a good company, you expect the company also be actually interested in you and have the space and have the environment where feedback can be given, because, we get busy, we get other priorities. And sometimes people just, it's not that they don't want to give you the feedback, it's not on their priority list. So for sure, there is this, I feel, obligation from the company to create a space and environment and tools to ask and receive feedback. But then at the same time, from the perspective of the person, we expect you to also ask for it, because that's how you grow. And because that opens the whole set of opportunities and ability to discuss how we can help you grow. And here I would be very transparent, is even, and because we've had this conversation also in the company, that we do this annual learning survey, where we ask people how are they happy with learning. And we always have the question, do you feel that you receive enough feedback, or what's your feeling around that? And we receive usually people, of course, feedback on feedback, that, we don't feel that we receive enough feedback. Me, as a leader on more projects, more engagements, then I ask myself, how many times people reached out to me to ask for feedback? Or, how many times they reached out to their peers to ask for feedback, to their and it's not very common. So I'm wondering whether it's fair. I can create all the opportunities in the world for you. I can create the growth cycle. I can create everything, but it should also come from the person. And looking back in my career as well, usually the best conversations and almost shifts or those important moments happened when I was very humble and open and asked either for help or for feedback, or I just was very transparent with what's going on. So here for me, it's again 2 to tango, and it's not only the right, it's also the responsibility.
Yeah, I very much agree. And I think for me personally, I've been trying to soften a bit my kind of view on that, because it was very much like, you want it, you go get it. And like, as I was growing, that was also something that I needed to balance. And I think where I landed, at least in my thinking, is that as a company or like as a leadership team, my responsibility is to create this safe environment that you were talking about in the beginning.
Yes.
And in some cases, especially with like specifically more junior profiles, meaning less tenured, not necessarily less mature. So I specifically mean who haven't been in the role or in the company or in the position for a very long time, which might impact the fact that they don't feel very safe. So with them, I will also create a platform for those discussions. So I will generally try to have like a scheduled cadence or
Yes.
like at least something blocked in the calendar. And then if we don't need it, we cancel. More senior the person becomes, more I agree with the view that you were sharing, because at least, and again from my experience, I noticed that when I would say to people like, just come and ask to me for feedback, a lot of like younger and more junior profiles didn't necessarily knew how to approach it or felt safe doing it. Like, I got coached to create a moment for them to have this conversation with me, but then more senior the person becomes, more this is becoming the responsibility than it is the right.
Absolutely.
That's how I think about it.
That's a very, very good point. I absolutely agree. I forgot to mention also one thing. One thing is a safe space. Another thing is you need to ensure that you teach the person or people the language, how to actually ask for feedback and how to give feedback. And of course, there's another even aspect is that there are different personalities. And here, that's more of I acknowledge that maybe I am a bit of a different personality in terms of, how I communicate, how I approach things. So something that would work better for me would not necessarily work for another person. And especially, as you say, when there are younger people in the beginning of their careers, they do not have the language and the skill set actually how to give and receive feedback. And that's then the responsibility of the company to give them that.
And what have been your experience on teaching people those skills? Because I think that's often, at least from what I hear in a lot of companies, one of the hugest challenges is that when people become managers or leaders, or they become senior, often they don't have the skill set to be a manager or to be a leader. So how did you approach growing these capabilities internally for the entire organization? And at the same time, how do you approach creating this? How do you approach helping people to learn those skills when they're in more junior roles?
I remember one of the key moments in my career was when I was in that startup, and our GM back then, he organized one day training for us on giving and receiving feedback. And it was, I must say that for the team back then, it was just not learning the skills. It was more also like a therapy session for the whole team, because suddenly you can discuss things. Before that, you didn't know how to articulate what you want to say. So that was one of the moments when I was like, oh my God, this really works. That's great. I can now give and receive feedback all the time. So it was, it was interesting and funny how then after that one day, suddenly, we were receiving messages on Slack. Can we have a coffee, please? I need to talk to you. So we're like, oh my God, we opened the Pandora box. Yeah, that was great. But that really cleaned up the air so much because we were working so much together. And of course, you have things that are unsaid, things that are, brushed under the rug, etc. So that was one moment when I realized that there is a skill to learn. And for us in Enrian, we try to ensure that all of our people get a training on giving and receiving feedback. We have Bara, who's our learning expert. So she runs those sessions usually, and she gives, a structured learning on how to receive, what is the feedback, how then they practice. It's also about finding the fine balance, because really, and I will be very transparent, some people do not bother that much with feedback.
But
they are not so much into, look, we have half of the company that are engineers. Making an engineer talk, good luck. That's, their biggest nightmare is to have a retrospective and turn on the camera. I love them to the moon and back, but sometimes it's very difficult to get any kind of verbal response from some people, which is, again, it's respecting the personality and respecting the priorities of the person. That's fine. But we ensure that all our people and all the newcomers get this session on the feedback. We tend to run it once a year, twice a year, depending on what's the influx, et cetera. Sometimes as a refresher, we have sessions, just, like one positive feedback a day. It's a very fine line. It really depends on the cultural context, on the preferences of people. Even some nationalities prefer it less. Some people prefer it more. So it's fair. We are a company of more than 20 nationalities. You can imagine how many discrepancies and how difficult is it to navigate when you have a Czech, an Italian, a Ukrainian, and maybe, a Vietnamese in the room. Tough. And that comes also with the feedback, how they talk, etc. But overall,
definitely.
we just ensure that we have proper training, and then we incorporate it in the yearly. Now we will be running a yearly feedback for everyone. So, and then of course everyone is pretty much encouraged to talk during retros if we run them, or just talk one-on-one. But that's more again on the responsibility of the teams and client leads or individuals.
I like it. I think I have the last question on the feedback. There are very different views, as you were saying, like different culture, different backgrounds, etc. But generally, what's your view on three things? One is like on the spot versus planned and structured feedback discussions. And second one around the day-to-day kind of the working feedback versus the end of year kind of summary performance feedback, as you were mentioning. So what is, again, how do you find the balance? What are the elements that should be included in one, not in other? And how do you generally kind of create a healthy environment where at a mid-sized company, it's helpful for people. It also not overwhelming for the entire organization.
One thing that I feel we sometimes forget, that thank you is also a feedback, and we underuse it. So feedback, it's not only end of year, big feedback cycle where I sit with you for an hour and then we talk and we discuss everything. It's almost 80-20 in a sense that the feedback culture is what we do every day. And here we tend to say thank you and appreciate things really not as often as we should. Meaning when you notice that the colleague did something great, just say thank you. When you are on a meeting, just highlight that, oh, that's great, by the way, which is really, really important. And actually that covers a big chunk of this feedback culture. And then when you were asking about giving the feedback on the spot or after some time, etc. So here, I think it's trickier with the negative feedback, in a sense that we need to ensure that we are not acting out of impulse and emotion in the moment when we are frustrated, when we are very angry, or when we are upset. So just let it ferment and then talk to the person and give the transparent feedback in a day-to-day life. Makes sense to have more of a structured team sessions. But again, I would be very transparent. I feel that it's very individual, in a sense of you need to know what your team dynamics are, what are the personalities. And for some teams, for example, retros work wonders. It's great. For some teams, I know that it will not fly, because I have a set of people that they open up only when it's maximum 3 people in the room. How can I ask them to speak up in front of 15? It's like, of course, they will be there and nothing. So it will not bring any value. So here it's very individual. And there where comes this balance that it's good to have a framework and process, at least high level, in place where you have those checkpoints where you have to, like, yearly feedbacks. But then in the context of us as a small boutique agency, it's for the leader to be aware of their circumstances on the project with the team, and then finding almost like a tailored solution for this.
I mean, first of all, I'm one of those people who are like, I'm not a huge fan of retros. Like, I mean, of course, I did run them as a manager because I know that's part of the process, that's part of the ritual. But I'd rather have a conversation one-on-one with someone, and both, like when I need to give feedback or when I want to receive feedback, so that I can also clarify the context, the situation, the implications, etc.
Yes.
So I totally relate to what you're saying. And like as a final inspirational close note for our conversation, there were one thing that I absolutely loved in McKinsey. Every year at some point of time, I don't remember the exact dates, they had what is called Thank You a Ton campaign. And you had like this virtual wall where you could join with your like email and profile, and you can tag someone in the organization and write them like a nice thank you message, and then this will appear on the wall, and everyone in the organization could see it, and it was so good to see all of the different like stories and like moments of someone's career, like someone learning something new, someone have given support to someone when they struggled, and so on and so on. So to kind of to support the point that you were making on the fact that yes, thank you is a feedback, and often we forget about giving one.
This is a very good idea. Maybe I'll think if we can incorporate it somehow. We do have the celebrations on our all hands.
Yes.
Also the opportunity to say thank you to the teams, etc. But this is a very good, this is actually a very good idea. So that it's like all thank yous in the world is on one place.
Well, I would love to see it when you build it.
Now with Lovable, we can build anything.
Yes, so true. All right, Olesia, thank you so much. It was great chat.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.